Welcome to Empowerment Unleashed Now. I'm Michelle Jones, and I'm here with
Scott Collins.
Howdy Rowdy. How
Howdy.
are you?
On this full moon, yeah. This is the day for me and you. It's the Cancer full moon in Capricorn. So that's me and you, sister.
It is. It's like the twinsy day.
It's the Twinsy day. One a
Wow.
year, yeah.
I didn't even think of it like that because honestly, something that I wanted to start off with right off of the bat is sending up prayers for any and all that are in need of just light, of love, of peace, solace, whatever it is that they need. My prayer is that we can spiritually encircle and engulf folks that really are in the depths of transformation at this time and in trauma, to be very real about it. I have family that has been living it. I have friends that are living it. We all know people also what happened in the Carolinas, what happened in Louisiana, and I just really wanted to acknowledge that right off of the bat. It feels awkward almost not to, right? So, with today's episode, what we're going to do, because tis the Capricorn season. And so today we're going to look at, and I'm going to be looking at notes today, y'all, which should tell you that I am really in a few different places interdimensionally because usually I'm not as note bound, but I kind of want to stay on point today and focused. So our topic for this week is overcoming limiting beliefs, and it's our roadmap to discipline. And I want to be clear, bro, that I'm defining discipline as your journey towards personal growth. Right? To me, that's the martial arts bag that we've been like acquiring of our bag of tricks and what we need to be fully who we're supposed to be. And that's a little bit of a different take on discipline, right? Because a
Yeah,
lot of
I
us,
love it. Yeah, the framing of it more as a practice than a limitation is essential.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the first overcoming of the limiting beliefs, right? Is the language.
Yeah.
So, so, today I think that like with a focus on strategies of how we can kind of stay in that growth mode, even when we're experiencing some internal or some spiritual resistance. And we have an amazing guest that's joining us today. And Amie Balesky is a spiritual teacher, a medium, a healer. I would say she's quite gifted and dedicated to finding people's clarity. I would also say that it's healing through connection, right? Healing through connection. And I think that when we talk about overcoming limiting beliefs, I think that transformation is really about kind of letting go and allowing ourselves to maybe feel from the heart and believe from the heart as opposed to all of the things that our head has learned, right? And I say that as a Gemini rising, and today's moon is at my natal Mercury degree. So, learning to feel that from the heart. And I just think that the wisdom that Amy brings to this work is based on, I think, compassion and the work of the heart and the soul, like spiritually and energetically being in conversation together. And I have such reverence for someone like Amy who uses not only her gifts and her talents, but she uses her vessel, right?
Yeah, the heart, the soul, it to really break it down are light. That's the light body, right? So that is the way we elevate. The mind can get heavy and push down and limit us. When we do tap into that as the true intelligence source, the heart, the feelings, then yeah, we can move upward.
Absolutely. And I think that somebody like Amy leaves like a lasting impact for folks that they overcome either not only just a belief, but possibly overcoming something that might have been programming based on spirituality and faith, which to me is kind of transformation at the highest degree, right? Because people ask all the time, hey, Michelle, how do you overcome these beliefs? And I do a lot of reframing with people. I'm a bit of a language junkie. And that is something that helps, right? Like we always find like the martial arts, but like we're finding new words, right? That's why we're empower rangers over this way. But I really feel like having somebody like Amy that is based on empowerment through connection and overcoming a belief that somehow when someone transdimensionally shifts, right? And I'm going to let Amy address this. So I'm not a psychic medium. And I'm not, so I might be doing a disservice to this. I just really want to acknowledge that the empowerment that comes through connection with this can really help people to stay disciplined in their personal growth journey. And so I want to, without any further wordy birdie on my part, introduce Amie Balesky to our audience. Amy, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank y'all. I appreciate you. I appreciate y'all. So yeah, essentially to break it down, everything is vibration, everything is energy, and everything is frequency. So your thoughts, your feelings, your emotion, um, everything that you think of manifests in the physical reality. And then when you cross over to the other side, it's not another side, it's right here. It's a different perception, it's just a different viewpoint. And so essentially, when you're going through and you're connecting with people that have crossed over, they're right here. You're just learning how to speak a different language of feeling, vibration, thoughts, images. And then you're taking all that and you're turning into words. And it takes a long time to try to figure it out, but I don't know, it's very, very cool and it's very refreshing. And I think the whole empowering thing on it is that there's so many people for so many years that go, this is my gift. And no, we all have this freaking gift. It's not a gift. It's like we're all spirit. Like that's what we are in a body, in a meat sack, wandering around this earth trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So then essentially, as you start to like settle back into yourself and you start to learn about your feelings and learn about how you're essentially this antenna for information. You're like a radio, and these waves pop in. There's these different levels, which are the different levels of spirit. There's higher vibration, middle, lower, and of course, all in between. And as you learn how to tune yourself to those frequencies, you start to learn how to tap into each spirit in each different level on the other side, which is all encompassed by God. So therefore, nothing is neither bad nor good. It just is. Anyways, that's a whole.
Yes.
There you go.
I love how you mentioned that it's not exclusive. It's this gift. It is a gift, but it's not
Mhm, it
exclusive
is.
to any of us. We all have it, and it's just a remembering of that. And
It
your communication about frequency as we're moving into this Aquarius shift, which is all about the frequency waves. It's just developing our aptitudes to tune into the one that we want to tune into. And thank you for doing that for others and helping people remember that they have that ability to do so.
Yes. What would it how much, oh God, we could take this so many different directions. You have so many different directions on this. But,
Mhm.
imagine how we'll go off on everyone. We can go regular, spiritual, conspiracy, which you're finding out most of that is a conspiracy anyways. But imagine how much less suffering there would be if people only realized that they're right here. Like, as I was sitting there and I was listening to Michelle, I'm trying really hard not to zone out, which is very interesting because I'm in my session room and things are calm and I have all of my scribble pad and everything because I have sessions after this essentially. And in my brain, there was a gentleman that kind of like moved past and they started getting all of these tinglies. Now, do I know who the heck he is yet? Absolutely not. But it was interesting. Um, and so, yeah, so they're all around you. and now I'm starting
A
to get
gap.
mine pulled somewhere. So let's continue your conversation. Sorry, channeling always happens 24/7, especially when you talk about it.
No, it's a-okay. I mean, one of the things that you touched on, Amy, that I find so interesting is overcoming adversity, right? That this really can help people um overcome some deep personal challenges associated with loss, with grief,
Yeah.
as well as I think limiting beliefs about your own situation and your own abilities. I love that you touched on that.
Mhm. And what you
You
are.
know,
Think about I heard this beautiful statement, this was a couple of days ago about grief. Everybody goes through it, right? I mean, even me to a certain degree. Like I miss having lunch with my dad and my sister, but I also know that they send me weird signs and I have all these cool things happen to me all the time. So there's this odd feeling of like my normal programming from what I grew up on, which like, oh my
yes.
God, it's sad. And then it's like, hey, I know that you made this amazing thing happen for me. So thank you. How can I be sad? But going back to the phrase, grief is just what was the phrase altogether? I think it was something like grief is a thing, or the reason why you have grief is because you cannot move through acceptance. So you're stepping back, like you're in this, I can't believe this happened. You can't accept that that was there. So essentially you're sitting in the past. And then the other phrase that I remember and I loved is the fact that, what is depression? It's about living in the past. What is anxiety? It's about living in the future. All you have to do is live in the now. And then essentially you keep yourself in a normal vibrational state. So,
Yes. Yes.
Arguable grief is the greatest guru. I mean, there are a lot of great gurus out there, but it
yes.
often it's one of those things you would never wish upon somebody else, but when you
Oh, God, no.
move through it, we often find that it was our greatest teacher.
Absolutely. It teaches you how to love. The reason we have death is to know how to love.
Mhm. Mhm. I also think that anything that can expand us beyond the time space continuum is really relevant, especially with what we are going through with the significant transit of Pluto moving through Aquarius, because time is breaking down anyway. I mean, I know, with these things, with these phones, I've watched time move forward and I've watched time move backwards, and I'm by no means a master alchemist, but I do slow it down and I do speed it up. Sometimes, these like you talked about, Amy, the signal, the radio, right?
Yeah.
The radio tower from what we're broadcasting, we're all vibration. Something that I had wanted to talk about also with you is trusting intuition to help overcome limiting beliefs, right?
Yeah.
For myself, when I was in a very, very deep healing, I've had just a couple of experiences that have been, I would say, my guides coming to me, like speaking aloud to me. I've also, thank God, I've only had people's
Great
to
though.
drop a couple
Yeah.
of,
They're fun.
and they sound very different than a child or a
Mhm.
person. Um, and I know that my initial, right, from my programming, from my limiting belief, like, I'm not somebody like Amy.
There you are.
I'm not a psychic. I'm not a no, right,
I know.
but we've been programmed to believe a certain way, and we bought into it, right? We drank the Kool-Aid,
Yeah.
and I know that these experiences that I've had, first of all, it still feels generationally a little bit like I'm outing myself with people. Like, hey, yeah, like Bon Scott, like met me in my kitchen, and
Yeah.
told me that I should take my medicine to like Thunderstruck because it helps people with chemo have their cells flip. Um, that kind of stuff, had I dismissed it, Amy, I don't know that I would be upright as I am today. Like the role of intuition, what taught you the acceptance of that where you knew, Amy, like, hey, this is what I am, this is me, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to be limited by this. In fact, I'm going to be expanded by it.
Correct. I grew up I'm what, 36 years old now, and my dad was born I'm just gonna give you a mini background. My dad was born in 1935. He was a Russian Jew, okay, and they were hardcore. All right. So I'm telling you that I didn't come from a woo-woo family. And my mother has her doctorates in trigonometry. So she's a was a college professor and a professional pianist. All right. So like it's not a woo and I'm the youngest of what would be 7 daughters, but 4 of them are dead. Okay. So that would be another thing. But growing up when I was little, I had childhood cancer and I had my first near death experience when I was 5. And I remember seeing what I can only assume would be like a guide or an angel or something in my room when I came home from the hospital. Um, Essentially was stage 4, took it out, bleeding on the whole 9 yard. After that I started having these really weird experiences, or talking to my mom. There's this one key memory, that I had that I was in the grocery sitting on it because I was youngest, so it's probably about 6, and I was watching this woman choose coffee down the aisle, and in my brain, I could hear her, and I knew exactly the one that she was going to do, and so she ended up picking it up and putting it in her cart, and I remember looking around and I was like, "Mom," I was like, "Do you do you know what people are thinking, or do you know what they're gonna do?" And they looked at me like, "No, you're weird." Right? Essentially, that was it, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool, whatever." And essentially I was so curious about that, that I kept prying into it. I'm a person that wants to know why? Oh, just one of those annoying people. And so I started doing my own little test from a very young age. And then essentially, up until I was 28, I had 3 more near death experiences, from being chronically ill to brain surgery, all these fun things. And essentially, each time that I would have one, I would come back and I would see the world in a different way. I would get more information. The world was like Technicolor. It was like you could feel people's thoughts as pictures in your brain. It was just wild. I remember sitting at the dinner table. It was Thanksgiving, I believe, of when I was like 17, and my grandmother had just died the year before. And I told my dad something. I can't remember what it was right now because I think I was terrified of telling him. And I told him something about my grandmother and about my grandfather, and he was crying. And essentially, anyways, he was like, how does she know that? We don't talk about that stuff. We're this old school family. And so at that point, they started going, okay, weird. There's something going on. Now, they never said, go out there and do this. This is my daughter, go practice. But they would watch it and be like, all right, that's a little weird. That's interesting. And so by the time my dad ended up leaving in 2019, so passing away, anytime we'd go to a restaurant when I was like 26, 27, he'd be like, "This is my daughter. She can talk to dead people. Go and have a good time. Go read them." And I was like, "Dad, I just want to have like dinner right now. Stop it." So it was this whole, not only trusting your intuition, but not having people form my own opinions,
Yes.
not having them do it for me. And I kind of did it myself. And it was through
Yes.
my own like seeing deja vu and having it happen and getting information and writing it down and then seeing it happen later. It was watching my best friend's mom die and then telling her that she wasn't going to make it out of the hospital. And I had a dream about her and she ended up passing away. Like all of these things. So it was just confirmation over and over and over again. So at this point, I just trusted. I just succumbed. You flow on the river. And so when people are like, I'm so worried about it, I'm like, don't. Just just go. But the other thing with all this is that you can't always just flow. There are signs for you to take action. Within this world and within this physical reality, you have to take action in order for things to happen, right? Like if you
Yes.
want your life to change, if you want something to go your way, you can't just sit on your ass and do nothing. Like there's a sign to say, go out there and do this, and you have to take that. Otherwise, if you don't, it's not going to happen, and you're going to complain about it and blame it that the universe doesn't like you. So it works both ways. There's guides for you to stop, and there's guides for you to go.
Is that where a more developed aptitude with intuition can help with being able to see those signs that are prompting you
Yes.
to take action?
Yes. Yes, all the time, and they're everywhere. So, I'm fascinated by quantum physics. I actually took a class, back when I was 27 on Yale online for quantum physics. I was trying to figure out, what does this mean? And, the whole thing that they figured out now is that, in our reality, matter does not exist unless you can view it. Right? So essentially right now, I'm viewing y'all, y'all exist, y'all are essentially in my universal bubble. I'm in your universal bubble, but everything outside of this, California, I mean, unless you're in it, California, Guam, none of those places exist. They're only a belief and an idea.
We're likely beyond that, behaving and saying and acting to things that you're attracting to yourself to help yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it goes deeper. We don't need drugs. We just need to talk about this. That's it.
It's totally
That
all
you
about
that
creation.
you
Yeah, 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 I can't even smoke pot. Well, number 1, I don't want to, number 2, I'm chronically ill, and number 3, the last time I did, I was laying there, this is just a funny moment, and this was probably, like, what, 4 years ago, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so TMI." I know this is going off on a non-spiritual tangent, but I was laying there and I was like, "Oh my god." What was the whole thing? It was like, I was thinking about how sex is like, it's a ritual. And it's bringing life, and it's bringing energy, and it's bringing consciousness into this. I mean, think about when you're going through and you're at church and or anything, you're doing something over and over again in a type of combination, in a type of pattern, and then you want this beautiful outcome. Essentially, it was the same thing, and I was like, "You know what? I'm not smoking pot anymore. No, I'm done."
well, we're sharing TMI. I mean, and working with plant medicines. I mean,
Yes!
I had a direct experience while working with psilocybin pertaining to sexuality and conjoining, like you're talking about, that
Tell me about that.
the closest feeling to the experience of birth and death
Yes.
is orgasm.
Yes, it's this, you're
Like
creating
when
a
you're
new
afraid of
universe.
death, it's actually an orgasmic experience when you go through that zero portal.
Uh, Thank you.
Yes, and that was Pachamama showing me that because used to have a death fear, and work with plant medicine really helped me with that. It was due to childhood experiences I had, but it was definitely one way to get me to be curious.
Absolutely. Have you ever tried DMT?
Uh, I have not, but I know somebody that's very advanced with that. Go
Really? Oh, you are? Okay,
I worked with
okay.
psilocybin a time, and Michelle's your star child, DMT.
Well, Michelle, that's my middle name, so maybe we're here for a I mean, everybody's here for a
1
reason.
hour
But
to me, 1 hour to so
I'm 2. I'm a double O.
your parents were
They
awesome to you. I'm a single and nobody in our family is French, so I like your parents better than mine already. But yeah,
I love it. I love the DMT thing. The reason why that is the only thing that I'm actually curious about. And it's because during my 3rd near death experience, essentially, I have a connective tissue disorder that causes me to, my body to break down. It just a normal thing. But essentially, I had to have brain surgery, and because of this connective tissue disorder, my tissues don't heal properly. And because of that, essentially, I got a MRSA staph infection, and my brain fluid, everything opened up. 3 months in the hospital, terrible. But when I was dying on the table, as they were trying to save my life, I was laying on my side and I was so nervous. I was so worried. I was so scared. All the doctors were around me. I can see my heart and my blood pressure gradually going down, 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 down. And as I'm watching, everything just goes quiet, but I can see everybody. And then all of a sudden, my viewpoint shifts and I'm looking down at myself with this team of doctors around me. And the only thing I think is, wow, that sucks for her. That was it. And I went through a wall and I went out to go see my mom. She didn't know what was happening. She had to bring me to the emergency room. And all I thought was, I hope my mom knows how much I love her. And then I woke up 2 weeks later, I was in a coma. And so I want to see, do they fit? Are they the same thing? I don't know. That's my only other thing. Why?
no, it's a very interesting thing. I mean, the reason that I even began learning about DMT is because During a healing that I had from ovarian and from bone cancer, my optical nerve severed in my right eye. And that's just from, the tumors that you have in the body, right? They say it
Yes,
detaches and
yes.
it can't reattach. And
Mhm.
so I've spent a lot of time in Costa Rica and different parts of Central and South America. So some very wise friend was like, "Hey, have you thought about this?" And Scott knows this, and I think that our producer Noah knows this about me too. Had you met me, what Scott, like 18 months ago, bro? I would have been like, no, like no. And I had only prior to that had one psilocybin experience because I unfortunately had found a friend of mine who was violently murdered.
Mm.
And I did a psilocybin journey because it was the first time in my life that I had felt depression. And I had never felt that before. And a friend of mine who's a shaman was like, "Hey, this might help you." I did it once. I went to sleep. I got exactly what I needed. I woke up. The grief was still present, but something in me had shifted to where I felt like it was malleable, like I could move it around and play with it a little bit more inside of myself as opposed to it just being so fixed on my heart. And that was back in probably 2010. And then I did not use psychedelics because Scott, what did I used to say? My life is psychedelic enough. Like I
That's what
already
yes, I get it.
like, so then this one very wise shamanic friend was like, "Michelle, this really could help with your eye because it's the only lingering remembrance that I have that this occurred in my body, right? Thank God." And so I was like, I trusted this person very much as I did the first time that I had done psilocybin. I was like, all right, let me do some research. Let me read about it. And so like a friend gave me like a very, very large book by a Brit who had done a lot of like examining of this.
Uh,
And sure enough, Amy, the first time I did this, and I'm very conservative. So when somebody says this is a full dose, I'm like, give me a third.
please. Yeah. Yes.
I don't respond to anything typically. I was like, so let's just break it up into thirds. So I
Yeah.
did a third, second, third, third. And legitimately, I had this very profound experience right off the bat where when I came back, I looked at the shaman and I said, "Oh my God, why am I not living in a gold palace?" And he's like, "There's Michelle." And I was like, "This is totally my creation. Like, are you
Yes.
kidding me? Like, this is the reality I'm picking? Like, wait a
Yes.
second. What about the Taj Mahal? What about creating the Great Pyramids?" And from there, Amy, I heard, like the choir of angels that they talk about. The reason I was interested in it is because it's called the God molecule, right? The spirit
Yes.
molecule. And
Uh-huh.
so for me, it was to just experience even closer relationship.
Yes.
And I mean, I never thought that I would be that person that I mean, Scott would be that person.
Well, you allowed yourself to flow into what you are and not hold yourself to boundaries. There are days when even I was just gonna you were talking about creating your own reality. Like 6 years ago, and you know this from being chronically ill and going through that. So 6 years ago, I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. I couldn't pee by myself. It was the whole thing. And then essentially, I got frustrated enough that I said, "Fuck it. I'm gonna, give myself to however this goes and flow and whatever happens." And so now I have 40 acres and cows and chickens on a farm with my husband. And essentially, I have a half farmer, half medium at the same time. And I go outside and I just stare at my trees every single day. So I just walk around. I'm like, oh my God, everything's moving. It's a trip in its own. But essentially, it's phenomenal. And when I go back into the city, I'm like, oh my God, it's so loud. it's so loud because you're so used to being so quiet and by yourself, or like in that area. But essentially when you start to do this, going back into another topic, when you start to do this and you start to do this more and more and more, you start to see, the little connections. Like right now, if I'm looking at y'all, it's very interesting that all of us chose this kind of like color scheme. So I'm clearly in like my Capricorn era right now. So if you see like my hair color and the green and all that, then we have like either Scorpio, Aries, or Sagittarius hanging out over here, like a combination. We'd have to see what your rest of your chart is like, but you have that. Yeah. And then
That would be fun to talk about.
okay, we can't. Well, we'll talk about that too. And then we have our like Cancer air sign, which we heard Cancer Gemini era because you have all the light colors and the blue and everything like that. And so colors are feelings and thoughts are. I mean, it's so interesting. And going over, we're gonna jump again because that's how ADHD works. But going into like signs and symbols. And we were talking about Capricorn and Aquarius and all that jazz. So I'm not an astrologer by any means. I think that if you, fly out far enough from the planet, Mercury in retrograde doesn't mean a shit thing. Like it's just a vibration. And then I know Scott's going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? But let's keep going. So with that, if you look at your chart and if you look at, your sun, moon, Mars, people have a hard time digesting what astrology is. So after asking why, and contemplating it and feeling like emotionally thousands of people. I'm not feeling thousands of people. Essentially, what I figured out is that all of these signs are frequencies, right?
Yes.
So when we talk about Leo, we're talking about the vibration or the frequency of the sun, right? When we're talking about Scorpio, we're talking about, either one, Mars or Pluto, the vibration. And so how do you get to your chart? So essentially, when you pop in, this is for everybody. I know you'll know this. So when you pop out of your mom, wherever you are on the planet, there are these large celestial bodies called Moon, Saturn, Mars, and they have these vibrations to them, and you are vibrations. So essentially, when you pop out, just like if you're playing the notes on a guitar, you have your normal strings, but depending where you are on it, it'll change the note. So depending where you're at on the planet, all these vibrations hit you in a certain way that essentially create your music composition or your sheet of life. And that is what your Mars, your moon, your sun, your Mercury, and everything like that. Within each one of these signs, they're weighted a certain way. And within this, whatever vibration or whatever sign you are, you will receive the opposite energy coming at you until you understand, what a badass you are and how to release resistance and control. And so through all these signs, you can feel which one you're bringing out more. You can feel the ego. You can feel, if you're acting in the highest vibration of you. And then you can also see it in the colors of your room and like what you wear and what you look like. It's all manifested everywhere.
Totally.
Love that, breakdown. One of the analogies I like to use a lot is like a sound bath. If you've ever
Yes.
sat amongst sound bowls and how that feels when they are all hitting different notes and tones, whereas the planets are we forget they have tone too, like, so it's sound and frequency and all those things, and they're just constantly moving like that in a way, tuning and playing different tones and sounds. I love your analogy of that. That is great. Um, Michelle, I'm circling back a touch, Michelle. I wanted to validate you acting on your intuition when you chose to work with DMT.
What's
Yeah.
what?
And I'm Capricorn, by the way. That's you're one
Capricorn. Let me look. Wait. No, hold on. We're gonna sit here. Give me a
Like, wait a second.
hold on.
I can spit my whole chart out. You don't even have to look it up.
Okay, I'm gonna be well, I know, but my bro okay, so tell me. Tell me. Where'd my pen go?
What do you wanna know?
Okay. You
Scott's like, what do you want to know? You want to know my nodal axis? You want to know my
what's your
ascendant? You
what's
want
your
to know?
Jupiter on?
My Jupiter is 14-degree Aquarius, it's right on the cusp of the 6th house.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
Venus is
so
headed up
you're
Aquarius opposing my ascendant, which is 14 Leo.
oh, your whole life is you trying to figure out who you are and how to be like proud and normal. Like that's it. That's your whole thing.
All the while having a moon at 19-degree Pisces in my 8th house.
Yeah, which means you can get lazy. very easily and, like, just wanna go with the flow and then just
That's
say no.
why I was made that's why I was made a Capricorn, 3rd decan, 5th house sign.
That means you're stubbornly lazy sometimes. It's okay. I
Legitimately.
I know, no, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Passives, is also dreamy and they're fun and they're interesting and they're imaginative and they're creative and they're flow. I know you're a really, really good soul. It also means you need to be more creative, and I like what you're doing. Is that all apothecary behind you?
It is.
Oh. We should talk about that later. I've recently really gotten into like forestry stuff and learning about all the different medicines and herbs and plants on my property. And so I can't tell you how many teas I've made for me and my husband that may have almost killed him, trying to
Ooh,
figure out like what works and what doesn't. So yeah, because the earth is
I
amazing.
love that.
And
No,
yeah.
Amy, you like nailed it. And so you asked about Scott's Jupiter, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Would you ask me about my Jupiter? What
Yeah.
do you
Well,
want
you
to know
should.
about me, Amy?
Well, you're acting in Leo, which is interesting. So I'm wondering where that is at, which is a really, really good thing. So I'm wondering if that's your north node or if
I'm
that
in
is
Aries.
area. Oh, so you're okay. So it's still a fire sign. So you're learning how to like stand up for yourself and really be number one in your own game. This also means too that a lot of times you had and I'm not it's so words are hard because it's sometimes easier to talk with feelings, but obviously you can't broadcast that, right? So we have a certain amount of words for so many different feelings. But when you're a woman and you have your North Node in Aries, it means you're going to be going from a place of serving others to serving yourself, and you have to get over the guilt. You have to not allow other people to guilt you into why are you not doing this for me? A lot of times it's very interesting because of your generation as well that you were kind of thrown into that, like, just lay there and let him take you, and then that's what it is. And so you have to learn again how to tell people to screw up, that it's okay, that yourself, that you're valued, that your time is valuable. And essentially you end up being this badass. And sometimes you can get really lonely too, because you tend to be an alpha, which is good, but then you also have to really, really lean into your spirituality and realize that you are number one and it's okay. And sometimes you can find your best friend within the quiet. too.
Hmm.
So,
My BFF is the quiet, my friend, for sure.
mhm.
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
I I long for it sometimes in the desert. I'm gonna get some this week, as a matter of fact, because my soul thrives on that, right?
yes.
Um, One of the things that's really interesting is, you know, generationally, and so Scott and I share a similar generation, where
Mhm,
our Chiron, where our wound is, right?
mhm,
And so, like, the wound was in the I am.
mhm.
And so for me, overcoming limiting beliefs is like wherever that wound is, that's where the other side of it, the alchemy of it is the healing,
Yeah,
right? To bring it full circle, to give it that 180. And I think that a lot of times what we want to do to wounds, especially around limiting beliefs, or we want to hide them. We want to bury them.
yeah,
Like we don't want to publicly bring those things forward, right? And that kind of explains the Gen Xers. Is that part of why we went underground was we knew that we were like, oh God, we better like fix ourselves before we try to even like tell anybody else what the
yeah.
fuck they're supposed
I
to
get it.
do.
I get it. I get it. Well, and now
Yeah.
let's go into the wound thing. This brings up another interesting topic as I go along and talk to spirits and channel and feel and kind of go into these deep patterns of like why do we have to align ourselves so much with our wound, with trauma? Why? Like, honestly, why? Like, why do we keep bringing ourselves back there to do it? I mean, you are perfect now. Like, literally, we're perfect
Mhm.
now. Um, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't acknowledge our story, which is just a story that we tell ourselves because yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's like the what question. Like, what do you get
yeah.
from this? Right. Like when I was in my healing, I didn't tell people for the most part what I had going on because I didn't want to be identified with it.
Uh-huh. Well, because people have been programmed to only look at the negative.
Mhm.
I mean, think about it, everything that's going on in the world right now. Nobody is going out there and, seeing the beauty of God, which God is energy. God is everything. God is you. God is me. God is all the way above. I just don't have a better, some people call it source. I don't care. But essentially, they're not going out and seeing the wonders of essentially this magical creation that you are existing right now. We're only focusing on that negative, terrible. Mm. Because we get addicted to living in that lower vibrational state, and that's not where most of spirits live, and so that's why a lot of people find it really hard to start connecting on their own journey. Or another thing is when I go through and I have sessions with people, there are times, this was even what are we on? We're on Monday right now. Yeah, sorry, time just goes all over the place in my brain. But Friday, um, I went into the session with this woman, and when you're zoned out fully, like, you could feel it. Feels like a thick, scratchy blanket, and I get in there and I look at her and I was like, "You are not having a good day at all." I said, "You are, like, really mad right now at something." And she didn't have it on her face. She's very light, very, very playful, and she's like, "Yes." And I go, "Okay, like, let's readjust, and so let's tune up for a second because your client is 50% of the connection because their loved one is coming through them." Right? And then they're coming into your brain, and then they're using it like a computer, and then you're creating this channel. So, we all just need to learn how to sit in the moment, raise our vibration, and not attach ourselves to our story that we once told ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. If we have moved through a trauma or a healing
Mhm.
and we have it does surface again, we've
Yes.
attracted the feeling of it again, where most likely just doing that to demonstrate to the universe the new aptitude we developed to respond differently. And then that's when the
Yes.
healing is like hardwired in. And then the trauma truly has no power over you ever again, is when you demonstrate the aptitude when it surfaces again and you just respond differently.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And that's why we're all here. And that's why Michelle did DMT. We'll all do it together. I tell you what, next podcast, we can sit here and we can all do it together and we won't tell anybody and we'll see what's happening. No, I'm messing with you. Sorry, Noah. Don't do it.
But a lot of the internal resistance I think that exists in each of us is because of some unresolved like pain, right? Or just unresolved trauma or just past experiences that we sometimes just move through in survival mode rather than
Yes.
thrival mode,
Yeah.
And I think that like spiritual empowerment and talking about how people find it
Yes.
i- is like a conversation that God, if ever there were a time where people have felt so disempowered, I'm like, what happened here, folks? Like what mass consciousness programming occurred to where we feel like, well, goodness golly, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know what I mean? Like people are like, yeah, I'm just trying to get by. Like, what? What?
I know, you are getting by. It's perfect. Right now, we need a shift. The other thing is that people want something instantaneously. They want to see that shift within themselves and within everything else right now.
Mhm.
And in this
Mhm.
reality where we live, remember, and y'all know this, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotion, your words, they're all vibration, they're all waves. And so just like when you throw a pebble in a lake, the waves go out, right? They don't just instantly shoot out. It takes a little bit of time, right? And so essentially when you start, changing your thoughts, changing your words, changing your feelings of like, I'm acceptance, I'm doing better, I'm getting there, but you have to actually believe it. That will move out and then it will start coming back in and you'll start to see this shift in your reality. But because it doesn't happen instantaneously, nobody believes that it can happen. I don't get that. So we have to start changing that somehow.
But as your mastery as an alchemist increases and that
Mhm.
illusion of time dissolves further, those things do
Yes.
start happening more
Quicker.
quickly. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So to encourage the bravery it takes, I mean, it is a bit of a blind faith thing at first when you've not experienced it,
Yes.
especially if you're in trauma or if you're
Yes.
in a grief, like I recognize and honor how difficult those things are. But I think the most bravery is necessary.
I agree. I absolutely
That's
agree.
deep, bro.
Yeah.
You really hit that bravery chord. I really that super like it resonates within me. Like, we had a guest on and we were talking one day and I was like, w- my own healing, like it wasn't brave. Like I wanted to live, and Scott was like, no, like don't diminish this, you know? And I think that like bravery, especially as a woman, it's a really every time you use that word, bro, it empowers me to step into that and to think of because so many women have been disempowered around just even walking down a street at night. Like, I have friends that and Scott knows this about me. I'll travel wherever I have to get to, and I always have felt confident that God would deliver me when I was supposed to. I've never felt anxiety about where I was going or freaked out, no matter what country, no matter who the people were. I just knew that I would somehow fit. And I think that being raised predominantly by a man helped to instill a sense of this is how you walk, this is how you get like, and it's a bravery thing. I never even thought of bravery as a word until we started doing this, Scott. Like I don't use that word to describe
Mhm.
myself, which is a really limiting belief that I held that I've overcome just by being in your presence and having you explain this. You're a brave dude, man. You are.
I know.
You are.
Well, I think when we when we're summoned to step into that, it's usually because fear is present. And when fear is near, the only complement to fear is love. So it's like it's the portal. How you going to access that? It's how you're going to get there.
Hmm. Yeah. More love. I was happy that Amy saw
Yeah.
me as a Leo because I thought at least she saw my heart.
Mhm. Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, I,
100.
I was like proud of that for a minute. You're the Leo rising, bro. But I was like, woo, she sees my heart, you
Well, we'll have to
know?
see. Do you know the rest of it? Do you know where your moon and your love sign is and your Mars? Where's that at?
Yeah, it's in Cancer.
That's all of them?
My
Your moon,
Mars and my
Mars.
Venus.
They're both, oh, so that's why, how interesting. So that's the opposition. Hmm.
The yin and the yang, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, today's our twin day because it's the full moon in Cancer. And
Ah, I gotcha. I like it.
read her.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
So
that's why.
I'm grateful to have you here on this day.
I
Oh,
know.
totally. We should tell Amy where we think we know each other from, bro.
Oh yeah, maybe that can be confirmed or not.
Yeah,
What is it?
give it up.
Mintaka.
What's Mintaka? I'm just a girl from Texas, y'all, that talks
So we
Minty.
feel so much better because we didn't know what it was either, Amy.
I thought you were saying Mintaka is a girl from Texas. I'm like,
No,
oh,
no, no.
Mintaka
Well,
introduced to me.
you never know.
Hey, for my mama.
Yeah.
Uh, it's in the belt of Orion, the star to the farthest right of the three in the belt of Orion. It carries
Okay.
in that star system.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I well, it's so there's this on just FYI. So if we're talking about energy and vibration, hmm, hold on. There's the twinkle. Give me hold on. So essentially, I don't know if people are going to be watching a video or if they're just going to be listening when they
Both.
listen to this. Are they okay? They're doing both. Okay, so essentially, I'm sitting here and I'm just letting my brain go blank. So you don't care about absolutely anything. Like y'all could be dancing around, with a hula hoop, and I wouldn't care. Um, and I'm just kinda looking off to the side because if I stare at y'all, my ADHD goes crazy, and I'm interested in naming every single one of those verbs behind you. So The Yucatan Peninsula is down on the very bottom of Mexico, though. That's odd. Interesting. On I think that maybe because it's the furthest away that my brain can consciously, because I don't know what a star system feels like, right? Because I've seen it, but I've never been there. And so I work on things that I've seen, felt, and touched before. Um, Also, when you're talking about the pyramids, that goes along with star systems. So that could be a connection that goes with that as well. Um, and then
Egypt.
there's also Egypt. Yes.
Well, that's the other one. I've done my Pisces season daily journaling while tracking my past and alternate lives. Those
Really?
those are the 2 that I've tracked.
I would have to say that that would probably, because that would
It
be
makes sense
pyramid.
because the pyramids align with Mintaka
Oh,
too.
do they? Do
Yeah.
they really?
Yeah.
They all do, yeah.
They all do.
They all align with the whole belt. Yeah.
Okay, well, then
Belt of
I'm okay with
Orion.
that. Okay, because 'cause I'm like, "What do pyramids have to do with this?" So it's like, "This doesn't make any sense." So I would have to say that that would be, some sort of confirmation. There's also, uh, I there's also a
And blue is royal color in Egypt too. Like
is
roy
it?
It's like a blue violet. It's deeper than blue, but it's a shade of blue that's between violet and blue.
Okay, okay, I would have to say that that would go along
But
with
also
that.
light beings from Pleiades and Mintaka do often obtain the color of that too, like that's the color of their skin.
That's what I thought
Really?
was the Pleiades, yeah.
Okay, okay, see, I don't know a crazy amount about that. I talk to, earthbound spirits regular stuff like that, so I don't really go that far out, and the reason for it is because, for me personally, can I confirm in my brain that I have met an alien before? No, because they haven't come up to me and said, "I am an alien," or "I am this other space thing," but they do exist. I can tell you at 110%, I've seen my fair share of UFOs and had really interesting experiences. And so as far as them pulling that from my brain, though, that's as good as they could get. So was your dad always a tough cookie to get along with?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. They're talking about that. And then his mom, though, is cross, so correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But you didn't she wasn't necessarily your favorite, though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And this woman, she's like, "Oh, just I know I wasn't his favorite, but I love him and he's here. Oh my God, my son is just not he's tough to get along with, but let him know that I'm here." And I'm like, "All right, I will." And so he's around. She's part of your community.
She comes up
Uh-huh.
a lot in these type of exchanges.
Usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
she
I get
she does
around
love you.
people from.
Yeah. So that's probably why, because you're going and you're gonna go off and do this whole thing and speak and everything like that. So essentially everybody's like waving their flags, like, I got like they're trying to do that for you. So take time for you. And then also last thing, yeah, mm, what is that feeling? Talking about lymph nodes. They're talking about interesting. So if you get a sick and if you get sick, if you get a cold or anything like that, you just essentially make an herbal remedy or tea, and that is what you take instead of like going to the doctor normally.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because they have you sitting there.
Not limited to that, but like, yeah, I definitely
That's what
be my own doctor usually. Yeah.
I agree with you on that. And they're just I think because they show tea, they show this. I don't think there's going to be any cancer involved, but it could be that because of you going to California, you may end up getting the flu or getting sick. We'll just have to see. And so there may be a thing of like maybe your fever gets really bad and make sure you go to the doctor or make sure you go in to get seen. But you'll have to let me know. You'll have to let me know.
Eh,
Who is that? This may be somebody I'm about to channel because I literally started sessions within 30 minutes, but I'm just gonna ask it anyways. Michelle, your dad doesn't have dentures, right? No. Yeah, okay, yeah. There's a man that is showing up in my head and he's smiling. He's older and he has like these perfect white pearly teeth. And you can tell that they are fake as crap. But mind you, spirits come in and they try to show up. Like, I will get them in my bathroom. I will get them 2 days before. I will have them show up while I'm cooking dinner on Saturday night. And so I just have to figure out where they go. So yeah, there's a man that's showing up with has these huge pearly white teeth. So yeah, I'll have to figure out who that is and let y'all know.
That's interesting. I'm
Uh-huh.
just thankful that my mother didn't show up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she would. She would. She would absolutely. If oh fuck. Well, when you talk about something, I want you to think about it when you talk about something, it's like ringing a bell in my brain. So it's essentially like, oh, I want or I desire. And they're like, coming. That's essentially what it feels like. And so if I sit there long enough and kind of zone out, it's like the old televisions when you used to turn them on, it would take a little
Yeah,
bit to heat up
yeah.
and then the picture comes in. That's what it feels like in my head. Um, so I'm getting something. It's warming up. The room, when a spirit shows up, the room starts to feel thick.
Mhm.
When there's not a spirit present, y'all know this or you've experienced this. When there's not a spirit present, it feels very light and airy and clear. And then it just thick. So there's a thickness, but uh, can you do it? Can you do it? Why? Where? Is that yours or is that hers? Where so Michelle, do you have like was there something going on with either the brother or the brother-in-law? Or, like, is there, the brother or the brother-in-law, or was there, like, a negative influence or, like, something weird going on with that?
For me, no.
Oh. Odd. Somebody's talking about brother or brother-in-law, which can kind of feel the same way, but, like, there's this interesting, like, type of energy that goes with it. Um, hmm.
That could be me again.
Is
I
it
was
you?
gonna say
Okay.
it's not me,
Yeah.
sister, it's my bro you're picking up on.
That's you.
It's
Okay,
like I'm
what's up with that?
dominating the room here.
It is, it's you. Because they wanna I mean, they love her, but they're what's the brother-in-law about you for you? What's up with that?
That's why I said it's not me.
Yeah.
Uh,
We'll leave it there. Okay. We'll leave that there. Yeah. Your
I'm sure
people
Scott's been calling you for a session,
yeah, I
Amy.
feel like that's in our
yeah.
future.
And you just made a client.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know where to find me. My website is thebaleskyexperience.com, and I'm on every single social media platform. So my whole thing, this is my favorite thing to do in the entire world because when you get a feeling and you start to connect, my favorite thing to ask is why, and then how to make the connection better. And so for me, it's not only connection, but it's also kind of like a little bit of a game. Like, can we do it better? Can we make it better? Can we get this done? Come on, because it's this when somebody realizes that they're talking to their person, the way that their eyes light up is just amazing. And when they leave, it's like they went from darkness to light, and that's the only thing that I could ever ask for, and I think they could ask for as well. That's it. That's why I do it every day.
Ugh. I just love this, Amy, because I think that we've overcome some beliefs today just in this
Yeah.
time together. And I
Yeah.
think that we've definitely gone through some disciplines in terms of growth in our journey here.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful. I'm sitting here kind of with my mouth open because I have my own take on the things that you said about
Okay.
brother from another mother here,
Uh-huh.
and I just want to thank you so much, Amy, for sharing time and space with us. We're humbled, we're honored, we're thankful, and again, you can find Amy like Balesky on any social media platform. And please, I know you've made a new client in Scott, and, if he does it, I'm probably gonna have to do it too for some reason because
Yeah.
We always kind of do things together as twinsies. So thank you, thank you. And also, I just wanted to remind people if you're listening to this on Spotify and Apple, please leave us a little 5-star review. Give us any suggestions, anything that you want to hear us talk about. We're looking forward to going out to Palm Springs. We're going to be with Christopher Witecki speaking about the step astrology system that he's created and kind of bringing home this Capricorn season with like a whole new framework, which we can look at our star maps from. So, thank you so much for listening and for being here. We appreciate y'all. Peace and love. Thank you so much.
Deep gratitude.